I'm here today to actually give you a summary of the United Methodist Church annual conference, which we had in St. Cloud a couple weeks ago now. And for this first time in the 6 years I've been doing that, don't have a time restriction on me. So you're going to be the time restriction, and I'm going to take off my watch right now. And even though I might get a little lengthy at this, I'm going to take a look at it once in a while to make sure I don't get too carried away because it's too hot. That's if the watch will lay down. 6 years I've been doing that, and I kind of, each time I go there, I report back to you that I'm just very impressed with the way things are handled. Our Bishop Sally Dick does just a fantastic job of running the conference as far as the meetings are concerned and keeping things in order, and she has an understanding of Robert's Rules of Order, just amazing person. Along with that, she does give some messages also, and her opening message this year had to deal with the topic of just not sit there. We got to go ahead and do some things. And that's what I wanted to do. Most of the message I have to give you today is coming from her message. So if I interpret anything, it's what I picked up from her interpreting what I read to you today. In reading John 5, 1 through 9, and I kind of read it and just kind of after stumbling a little bit, but I read it kind of in a monotone, and as Bishop Sally got at it, she just saying, Jesus just got back from healing some other people on the road, and he's taking these are long walks, and stuff. When they get there, they're pretty tired. And when he came to this particular spot, this pool, and the pool was, they believed at that time, it was one of like an artesian well or one of those bubbly spas that you said. What happens every once in a while, the pool will start to bubble as the oxygen comes out of the ground. And and the people at that time thought that the angels were stirring it up, and that the first person that got into the pool would be healed, whatever disease or whatever their problem was. And this man, as Jesus comes in there, he sees these people laying there, and he sees this man laying there, and he's been there for 38 years. Now, I don't know if he gets up and moves during the day. I suppose he does, but he's been there for 38 years and hasn't got to be first in line. That's a long time to be laying someplace because you can't walk. 38 years. So Jesus asked him, do you want to get better or what? And then the guy says, always, don't we? When my wife says, Jim, take out the garbage, I go, well, I come up with an excuse. So his excuse happens to be, turn the page, is, sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. And Bishop Sally said, 38 years, and you haven't found anybody can help you yet? And he's kind of, I think at this point she said, he's kind of getting kind of disgusted with this. And she just tells him, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. And that's what he did, and he was healed. And then she brought on to say, and tied into that, and the point was that we need to, need to do something. We just can't sit there and let things go by us. We need to get up and move. Get a pick up, and in her case she said, and you need to get out of your pews and do something. She tied it into that constant hum that's going through the conference and through Christianity and through United Methodism, is that we're losing numbers. And Memorial Day we find out how much we're losing. And she said that over the last bunch of years, we've lost, as Christians and as Methodists, over 50% of our membership. And we're not going anyplace. 5% of the people, membership in our churches are between 18 and 25. So as I die and pass on, there isn't anybody, very, very few people to replace us. So sooner or later, down the line, if we wait 38 years, you'll be sitting in the pew by yourself, or maybe in this whole sanctuary by yourself. And it's kind of sad, and that's a message I've heard, and I've heard, and we don't seem to be doing it. And she basically talked about, if we really want to get well, then we've got to do something. Not just you and I, but this whole group of people. We have 75,000 people in Minnesota that are United Methodists, and throughout the world there are millions of us. But that's great, but we need to do some changes. Something has to go on. And that's the theme that kind of went through the whole annual conference, was we need to do some thinking. We need to do some revising. We need to do some modernization. And us old people, myself, sometimes don't like to do changes. We just let it go, and it'll get better. Well, you know what? We let it go, and it ain't going to get better. And that's the sad part about it. That's what she was talking about. We need to make some decisions. We need to go forward on some of this stuff. And she said, and once we make some decisions, we got to kind of follow through on them. So in one of our books, Our Daily Bread, I'd like to read you this too, if I can stutter through this one. It is important as Christians that Christians act and speak so that the Savior is glorified. When you give your word, keep it. When you make a commitment, honor it. When you take on an obligation, fulfill it. As Jesus said in Matthew 5:37, let your yes be yes. And she commented and said, there's no qualifications for yes. No yes buts. And there's no, I'm going to do this but. It's your yes be yes. So once we make a commitment, we need to follow through on those particular things. And we need to, be firm on what we believe in and go on with it. And to stretch that even further, she gave us a literature lesson on a book, and I'm sure most of you know it, and some of you that don't, that's too bad, because this is a really good lesson, especially for Father's Day today. And anyway, congratulations all you fathers and grandfathers and whatever. This is our day today. It's a prime example of a father right here. Is this elephant. Horton hatches the egg. And this is in story, and as I get to the end, I don't want anybody blurting out the answer, because I'll ask for volunteers at the end. I know all you elementary teachers out there are going to get at it. And let me just explain for some of you that don't know what it's about. The story is about Horton, and the story starts off with this bird sitting on her nest. And when you have birds in your house, they're just sitting around, and this poor bird, Macy's, tired of sitting on his egg. He's sitting on the egg, and she's just kind of saying, if I would rather be doing something than sitting on his egg. I want to have some excitement in my life. It's not exciting sitting on eggs. So she said, if I just find somebody to sit on an egg. And Horton walks by, and she said, well, would you sit on my egg, watch my egg for me while I'm gone? I need to go for just a little while. And so, he said, well, I don't know. And then she says, please. And then he says, I won't be long. Sir, you have my word. I'll hurry back. And Horton says, oh, well. And he says, you want a vacation? Go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg. I'll try not to break it. I'll stay and be faithful. I mean what I say. He gives his word that he's going to watch that egg. So you can imagine the trauma when an elephant is going to try to sit on an egg now. I mean, he's got to do some prep first. You just don't go sit on an egg if you're an elephant and expect something done. So he props up the tree that you can see up there. He's propping up the tree so that he can sit on it. And he gets it all propped up, and he climbs up there, and he's going to sit on that nice little red egg. And then he goes, punk, and he gets a silly smile on his face as he sits on this egg. He says, oh, this is so much fun. And it was probably for a little while. And he sat, and he sat. And he sat, and it started to rain. And he sat all day and all night and through a terrible storm. And he got away. And he says, I hope Macy gets back pretty soon. And Macy, of course, is in Palm Beach. She's sitting there getting a suntan, enjoying the nice weather and everything. And Horton's sitting on that egg, and he's just sitting and sitting and sitting, and nothing's happening. And she's enjoying herself. And Horton sits all day, and all of a sudden it gets to be a storm, a terrible snowstorm goes through. And I don't know where the snowstorm comes in the jungle, but a snowstorm comes through, and he's sitting and he's sitting. But Horton kept sitting and said with a sneeze, "I'll stay on this egg and I won't let it freeze. I meant what I said and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful, 100%. So he's sitting there, and then of course all his friends come by and they go look at him. They go, "Look at this dumb elephant sitting on this egg." They laugh at him. They see he's silly. He gets teased. "Oh yeah," he said, "that's the way it goes. I'm an elephant, but I meant what I said and I said what I meant, and an elephant is faithful, 100%. And they're giggling and laughing at him. And then, and all of a sudden he hears footsteps, and here come some hunters. And they're going out to kill elephants. And then they walk up and they see this elephant sitting on that egg. Now, if I was a deer hunter and I saw a deer sitting in the tree on that egg, I don't think I'd laugh so hard I probably couldn't pull the trigger. So the guys look at it and say, I'm not going to shoot this elephant. It's too funny. We're going to drag him, take him into, to sell him to a circus. And we'll get the people will pay a lot of big money to see him. So they get him and they drag him down from off of his perch. He's still sitting on the egg. They take the egg and the whole works. And Horton was unhappy at that 100%. So they carry him over the mountains and they put him on the boat and they sail him across the sea and they land in New York City. And then they got ashore and they sold him to a circus man. And the circus man, he says, "Well, I'm going to take him on tour because people will pay to see an elephant sitting on an egg." So they took him to all kinds of crazy places like Kansas, Drake, North Dakota, and they were looking at him.